Hey y'all, and welcome back to Over 40 with a Shorty. If you're new here, this is the podcast where we tackle all things motherhood later in life, the real, the raw, and the sometimes hilarious moments that come with that. I'm your host, Tovan, and today's topic is one that is very near and dear to my heart. If you are a mama or a mama to be over the age of 35, you have probably heard this term or topic way too many times, and that is advanced maternal age. But we're going to talk about it today. Before we dive into the topic, in full disclosure, I am not at home in the great state of North Carolina this week. I am in the Netherlands with my Shawty and my husband for the holidays. So we may take a couple of weeks off just because I don't have a proper recording studio. We'll see how the sound and the quality comes out today. I'm standing up in our bedroom recording this for you because I didn't want to miss this week's episode. I really wanted to introduce this topic because it really sets the tone for future topics as we dive into all things motherhood later in life. So let's get into it. If you're like me, when you first went to the doctor and they hit you with that term, advanced maternal age, you probably gave them the side eye. And you might have said, like, excuse me, advanced what? We're here to break it all the way down for you today. We're going to be talking about what the heck is advanced maternal age, what it actually means, how it replaced some even more outdated language, geriatric pregnancy, and how the term has evolved. We'll also get into the science behind it, right? Behind aging eggs and why doctors label us high risk when we're of advanced maternal age. And we'll even touch on whether or not I think modern medicine is keeping up with how women are living their lives today. Plus, before we go, I'm going to share some tips to help you prepare for pregnancy later in life. Because let's be real, y'all, this journey isn't for the faint of heart, but it's so well worth it. So let's get into it. What is this thing we call advanced maternal age? In medical terms, what it really means is when a woman is 35 years or older at the time of delivery. Yes, at 35. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I don't feel like I even started getting my life together until I was around 35. So calling me advanced feels a little rude. But let's talk about how far we've even come and how we even got to advanced maternal age as the term we use today. The term geriatric pregnancy was the OG label. I know y'all remember that term. Some of y'all still use it. And let me tell you, hearing somebody throw around the word geriatric when you're out here still living your best life, that's a slap in the face. So I am thankful that the medical field caught on to the fact that maybe geriatric isn't the vibe and we need to relabel this so that people feel comfortable and not stigmatized by becoming mothers later in life. So we've got advanced maternal age. Is it perfect? Nah, but it's progress. So let's get to the history and the evolution a bit. The term goes back to a time when women were having babies just way earlier in life. And we know medical science was, let's just say, not exactly modern. Back then, 35 probably did feel ancient. But today, we know that women are out here thriving and living their best lives into their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And we don't really think medicine has got the memo quite yet. And so hopefully podcasts like this and conversations like this will help to create and raise awareness around the topic, but also help our doctors and scientists start to do some more modern research on what it means to be advanced maternal age. So what's the science behind egg aging and how we get to advanced maternal age? As women, we are born with all the eggs we're ever going to have. So that's about 1 to 2 million. And as we age, both the quantity and the quality of those eggs decline. And by the time you hit your 40s, only about 3% of those eggs are left. And the ones that are left, let's just say they've probably been through some things in 40 years. So we tend to face this dilemma of quality and quantity when it comes to our egg reserve. As we age, our eggs age And this increases our chances of chromosomal abnormalities. And as those chances increase, well, so do the risk of things like miscarriages or even genetic conditions like Down syndrome. But do not let that scare you. I am intentional about bringing this topic to you because I think it's so important that we just understand what the risks are and educate ourselves of what it means to be of advanced maternal age so that we can, in essence, be more proactive about our health and reduce the risk in our pregnancies. So, um, do not fear. We're going to keep talking about what this means in more detail. It means for us that as you become older, your pregnancy is considered more high risk. When doctors label your pregnancy as high risk, I don't think they mean to stress us out. Like, I don't think they're intentionally doing that, even though, they do stress us out. My personal experience with that was finally being fed up after my third or fourth doctor's visit and just asking my healthcare providers to please stop telling me that. Please stop using that language. It is creating a stress in me that is uncalled for because to date, you have found nothing about my pregnancy that is abnormal or that suggests that there's risk today. So, unless that happens, unless there's some data, some lab work, something that comes back that suggests that this pregnancy is not proceeding as normal, then please do not tell me one more time that I am high risk or that this is a high risk pregnancy because you're elevating my stress. And I'm pretty sure stress is not good for pregnancy. So, the reason why I want to create this space is so you can also advocate for yourself in that way. Are there risks? Yes, we're going to talk about all of that. But you don't also have to have people throw that in your face often. And if it's causing you a point of anxiety, let's be clear about how you want to address that with medical professionals as well. So I don't think they intentionally do that. But I don't know that they are intentional about helping you manage your stress when they are telling you or talking about those risks with you. But what they really mean when they say that is that they want to keep a closer eye on you because there are slightly higher chances of complications as we age and take on pregnancy, right? We have, especially women of color, we have extra complications or risk to experiencing things like gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, or even having preterm births. But with the right care, most women go on to have healthy pregnancies and healthy babies. I think this is the time where I'll just say, I think the science is also a bit outdated. This is the opinion of Taban. I'm not a medical professional. I do not study this professionally. This is based on when I started to do my own research on, what does it mean, especially what does it mean for me as a Black woman. And what I can tell you is that, the research is a bit outdated, and we could probably afford to have additional studies and research done that are even more inclusive, so that we fully understand what reproductive health looks like as we age as women. So let's get into the tea on like what I feel about how I feel about the research. When the term was like first coined, the data wasn't exactly inclusive. Most studies were done on a small group of homogenous women, and they didn't reflect the diverse experiences of women today. And y'all know that when science leaves Black and brown women out of the conversation, the conclusion can be or get a little, let's just say, incomplete. It's just incomplete, right? And I think there is an opportunity for modern medicine to really explore shifts in life expectancy, lifestyle shifts, and what that means for women who are having kids later in life. The truth is, women are living longer. They're living healthier lives. They're out here running marathons. They're starting businesses. And they're thriving well into their 40s, 50s, and beyond. So, why hasn't science? Now, I think to some extent, science is starting to come around, and we're starting to see more choices for women as they start to explore reproductive health, especially later in life. Thanks to some modern technology, we have things like IVF. options. We have egg freezing as an option. There's even advanced prenatal care options that are allowing people to have kids later in life in safer ways. But there's still work to be done. And I say that because even with all that technology that exists, it is not accessible to all women. And so until these resources are accessible, regardless of income, race, and location, I don't think that it's a comprehensive list of options for people. And I still think that there's still a lot of unknowns that need to be studied to help us fully understand and assess risk and also options as we think about becoming moms later in life. So, the next part of this subject, or the next part of this podcast, I really want to spend some time talking about the rewards and the risk. So let's talk about the risk. Are the risk real? Yes, there are real risks, and I cannot sugarcoat that. But it's important to be able to separate the fact from fear. Most women over 35 will have a normal pregnancy, y'all, especially if they're getting the right care. So don't let anybody scare you out of pursuing your dream of motherhood. I know that personally, when I became pregnant at the age of 43, a lot of fear was associated with that experience for me because I didn't know what that meant. What I did know is that there's a stigma around becoming a mom at this age, that moms at this age are more likely to have children who have cognitive disorders. And I wasn't sure what that meant. And raising a kid with cognitive disorders, I didn't know what it meant for my physical health. Like giving birth in itself comes with a lot of risk at any age. And so at 43, what does that mean for me? Right. And so I also knew that uh, mortality rates for Black mothers were higher. Right. So all of the statistics I knew around having a baby as a Black woman later in life were not good. And so there was just a lot of fear around that for me when I first found out. And along my pregnancy journey, I started to educate myself and get a more holistic picture of what it means to be of advanced maternal age and what it means to be a Black woman having a baby, especially in the United States of America, where we know that there's disparities there. And I started getting more comfortable with exercising and advocating for myself. And we'll talk a little bit about that as one of the tips that I'm going to give you if you're a mother who's preparing for this journey later in life. So there are risks. For sure, we should talk about those. You should be aware and educated and know how to speak to those and advocate for yourself in those spaces. But there's also a lot of reward. And so I say, if you want to become a mother later in life, do it. Go for it. Those rewards, in my opinion, include um, being more emotionally and financially stable. I don't know about y'all, but in my 40s, I'm definitely more emotionally and financially stable. I have lived my life. And so I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. And I'm bringing so much more wisdom to the table as a mother. I am exposing my kid to things that I wasn't exposed to early in life. And I can do that because I've matured in a way that those experiences I value more in my 40s and want her to value earlier in life. And two, because financially I have the means to do those things. And so I'm experiencing motherhood in a way that's enjoyable and comfortable because I am more mature. I am emotionally stable. I am financially stable. And, I'm also in a stable, loving, and healthy relationship. And so all of those things make the world of difference when you're talking about becoming a mom later in life. So I think that there's a lot of rewards. There's also research and studies out there that suggest that parents who have kids later in life have a longer life expectancy. So there's that. If you need a little extra motivation, you might live a little longer if you have kids later in life. Yeah, so I mean, really, yes, there are risks. Be real about the risk, know the risk, be educated, and understand what a risk mitigation plan can look like for you if you're opting to, become a mother later in life. But know that there's lots of rewards, and I don't think we talk about that nearly enough. I just want to encourage you that if motherhood is on your mind and you're afraid because of all of these things that we play up in the media or even at our doctor's offices, because, at the end of the day, the doctor's office is also a business. And I like to continue to remind myself of that. They're going to run every test because that's how they get paid, right? They're going to check every negative box, because every negative box means that you'll make a decision to sign up for something else, right? Yes, give me that test. Yes, I want that genetic testing done, and I want this done. And yes, bring me back bring me back in a couple days because I want another results. Like, all of that is also to play on your emotions, in order to, you know, get you to keep spending money. That's a whole nother topic. That does not mean you should opt out of these things. I think you should be educated enough to talk through it thoroughly with your doctor and truly understand the benefit of this test, this exam, this vaccination, this whatever, and make that decision for yourself as opposed to allowing people to make it for you. And again, that's going to be one of the tips that I have. So speaking of tips, let's go right into that discussion. There are probably 4 tips or so that I would start with if you're thinking about becoming a mom or you're preparing for pregnancy later in life. What I think you need to know is that, first, you should schedule preconception visits and visits with your primary physician. And I say this because you really should check your egg reserve, know your hormone levels, and know your overall health. This will help you tremendously when it comes to being able to assess what actions you need to take to, one, conceive, or to have a healthy and happy pregnancy. So know those things, because the more you know about your health, the better you'll be able to navigate pregnancy in general. Get your body right. So my second tip is get your body right. If I had planned, I probably would have been in the gym. I would have not just focused on like a healthy diet, but the exercise piece too. If you are someone who smokes or drinks excessively, you're probably going to want to cut all of that out if you're preparing to become pregnant. And all of those things, if you're not taking care of or not staying on top of, can absolutely negatively impact your ability to conceive or your ability to have a healthy and safe pregnancy. And so I would say, in addition to going to the doctor and understanding your health, starting to proactively make smarter and better decisions around your health is critical. So that would be tip number 2. The third tip I would say is, if you're someone who knows that you have reproductive challenges, because fertility issues are real. On the last podcast, we talked about egg freezing, and we talked about some of those fertility challenges that women are experiencing. I suggest you consider and explore all your options. That includes, should I freeze my eggs if I'm thinking about doing this later in life and I'm not ready to do it now? Is IVF an option for me? Is surrogacy an option for me? Is adoption an option for me? So all I'm saying is that there's more than one way to motherhood. Every journey looks different, and every journey is magical and beautiful no matter what it looks like. So, but know those options and understand what they are, because I think that helps us to eliminate and alleviate some of the stress of decision making in the moment. The more you know, the better off you are when it comes to navigating this experience from beginning to end. So explore all your options, educate yourself, do your homework on all the paths. And when I say do your homework, it's not just about IVF and egg freezing. It is a comprehensive homework on pregnancy. And why I say that is because advocating for yourself becomes super critical from the beginning, to include like what type of doctor you want and researching that. I was intentional, and we'll talk about that in a future episode, about seeking out Black women OBGYNs, which there were none in my town. I started out going to Atlanta, y'all. I live 6 hours from Atlanta. Going to Atlanta to find someone that I felt comfortable with. Unfortunately, that wasn't a realistic plan to keep going to Atlanta for services, because my pregnancy got a little difficult. and traveling, was challenging, and being sick all the time, like it just wasn't working. And so I had to switch plans and ended up in an office where I had to see every doctor in the office. I didn't get a choice of who I saw, but there was at least one Black physician. And when I had questions that weren't being answered to my liking or to my understanding, I would reach out to her. One of the doctors in the office asked me one time why I picked this office. I said, because I was looking for a culturally competent doctor. And I'll be honest with you, she was an older white lady. She was perfectly fine. Like, she handled my doctor's appointment well. She answered my questions. I didn't have any negative experience with her whatsoever. So I didn't have any, hesitation or reservation about her being in the room with me. But as soon as I said that, my next appointment was with the Black doctor. And I was so appreciative of her listening, taking note, and saying, okay, what I hear you saying is that in order for you to feel safe and protected and feel like you have people advocating for you, you want someone who understands your experience as a Black woman going through this process. And so for sure, she made sure my next appointment was with the Black doctor and that they did not miss that opportunity to connect us early in my pregnancy. And that was so beneficial. I'll tell you stories about those appointments later, and how some of the questions I had or some of the concerns I had, she was able to ease for me by simply being culturally competent, simply understanding Black women, our experiences from day to day, our lifestyles, all of the things that comes with being a Black woman that vary or differ from other nationalities or ethnic groups. So educate yourself as much as you can on the whole process of pregnancy, including doctors and who you want to be a part of your team. And speaking of part of your team, the last tip I have is build your squad. And that is anywhere from like making sure you have the right supportive partner. If you're not already partnered up, who's that person? If you aren't married, which you don't have to be to have a kid, you do want someone who's going to be supportive in this process. You want a doula, maybe, possibly. We'll talk about that and what the benefits might be to having a doula on your team, but someone who can help you navigate, especially if you're a person who shuts down and you're not capable of advocating for yourself. So having people like a doula can really, really, really help you. In fact, I had a doula, and I believe, and I would advocate that everyone should, that everyone should. But we'll talk about that again in a future episode and what the benefits are, because I also know that that's a point of privilege and that everyone can't afford that. And that's another discussion around what should be included in our healthcare benefits. And some insurances are now starting to think about midwives and doulas as an extension of your benefits, but it's not enough, right? Not enough. Who's your medical team again? Who are your doctors? Who do you want to be in the room with you, not just during the delivery process, but who do you want to be in the room with you every time you have to show up and have questions about what's happening in your pregnancy? Those things are important, and making sure that you have a team that gets what you need, that understands what you need, that is meeting your needs, and that is not making you feel uncomfortable or inadequate or whatever. Is very important. So those are the 4 tips that I would leave you with if you're considering motherhood. And really, listen, hey, those tips are for anyone. It doesn't matter what age you are. But particularly for the women who are doing this later in life and really haven't thought about this much. Like, these are the things that I would implore you to think about as you are considering, preparing for, discussing whether or not this is the right next step for you in your journey. So that's really about it for today's episode. I really do hope that this was informative, that you gained a little bit more clarity on what advanced maternal age is, where the term came from, how it's evolved, and even how to navigate with confidence some of these discussions that you're going to have as you start down the path of becoming a mother later in life. Now, remember, age is a factor, but it does not define your journey into motherhood. Again, women 35 and above are having healthy and happy pregnancies and deliveries every day. Every day. So please do not be discouraged. In fact, I want you to be encouraged. And I'm hoping that this will help you to more confidently step into these spaces, into this journey. So That's all I have. Listen, if you love this episode, be sure to subscribe, to share it with your girls, and to leave me a review. It really does help to make sure more women like us find this space and find their tribes. Until next time, ladies, keep glowing and growing. Love y'all.